doing everything right. You save, you maybe even invest. And somehow, at the end of the month, it still feels like the money slipped through your fingers before you even noticed it was gone. Here's the truth nobody tells you. It's rarely about how much you earn. It's about 5 specific behaviors, quietly running in the background, costing you more than almost anything else in your financial life. These aren't obscure mistakes. They're common, everyday habits that feel completely normal while they're happening, which is exactly why they're so easy to miss and so expensive to ignore. Today, I'm breaking down all 5 and the exact rule that fixes each one. And the last one on this list is the single most expensive mistake I saw over and over during my years as an advisor. I'm Sage, and this is Financial Methods, built on years spent as a licensed financial advisor and inside consumer lending, watching how the system really works. And that's exactly why this channel exists, to give you more actionable financial knowledge in one video than most people get from an entire book on the subject. Stay to the end, because these 5 behaviors don't just cost you money individually, they compound off each other. Fix them together, and the impact multiplies. Before we get into them, I want to say something honestly. These are habits, not mistakes you made once. They're embedded, built up over years, sometimes over a lifetime. Changing them isn't always easy, and it rarely feels dramatic in the moment. A 24-hour pause, half a raise redirected, one honest question before you invest. None of that feels like it's changing much on the day you do it, but it does. We know that, and that's exactly why we're bringing this to you. Not to make you feel behind, but because small, consistent changes to these 5 specific things add up to more than almost anything else you could do with your money. Behavior 1. Spending driven by emotion instead of a plan. A bad day at work, a stressful week, and suddenly you're buying something you didn't plan for to feel better in the moment. Here's the real cost. If this happens just twice a month, a $50 impulse purchase here, a $70 one there, that's roughly $1,400 a year. Invested instead at a conservative 8% average return, that same money becomes over $20,000 in 10 years. And for some people, this behavior runs even larger than that. A stressful month turning into several $100s in spending that's hard to even fully account for afterward. The exact number matters less than the pattern. If you've ever looked at your bank statement and thought, where did that go? This is very likely the answer hiding in plain sight. And here's what makes this behavior so hard to catch in the moment. It almost never feels like a mistake while it's happening. It feels like relief, a small reward after a hard day. That's exactly why it's so easy to repeat week after week without ever adding it up. Most people who do this couldn't tell you the real total if you asked them right now. It's scattered across dozens of small moments instead of one big decision, which is precisely what makes it invisible. The rule that fixes this: a 24-hour pause on any non-essential purchase over $50. Not forever, just 24 hours. Emotional spending loses almost all its power once the emotion that triggered it has passed. If you still want it tomorrow, buy it with a clear head. Most of the time, you won't. This one rule sounds almost too simple to matter, but the entire reason emotional spending works against you in the first place is speed. The purchase happens before your logical brain gets a say in it. Slow it down by even a single day, and you've already broken the pattern. This isn't about restriction. It's about making sure the decision is actually yours. and not just your moods. Ask yourself honestly, how many purchases from the last month would you have skipped if you'd simply waited until tomorrow to decide? Behavior 2, lifestyle creep. You get a raise, a bonus, a better job, and almost immediately your spending rises right along with it. A nicer car payment, a bigger apartment, dinners out that used to be occasional and are now routine. Here's what makes this one so dangerous. It doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a reward you've earned. But if every raise gets absorbed into higher spending, your actual wealth never grows, no matter how much your income does. Picture two people getting the exact same raises over 10 years, totaling $20,000 in additional income. One person lets their lifestyle absorb all of it. The other invests half of every raise before they ever adjust their spending to it. That second person ends up with roughly $70,000 more purely from that one habit. The rule that fixes this. Every time your income goes up, automatically invest half of the increase before you touch it. You still get to enjoy the raise. You just don't let all of it disappear into a lifestyle that quietly expands to match your paycheck. Notice this rule doesn't ask you to sacrifice the raise entirely. That's exactly why it works long term instead of getting abandoned after a few months. You still get to enjoy half of every increase. New experiences, a nicer dinner, whatever feels like a genuine reward. The other half just quietly builds your future before your spending habits ever get the chance to absorb it. And here's something worth pointing out before we move on. Behaviors 1 and 2 aren't isolated from each other. Someone dealing with lifestyle creep is also far more likely to justify emotional purchases because their overall spending baseline has already crept upward. Fix one, and the other often gets easier to control too. That's what I meant earlier about these behaviors compounding off each other, for better or worse. Behavior 3, waiting until you have enough to start. Enough saved up, enough extra income, enough certainty. The problem is that feeling of having enough almost never actually arrives on its own. We covered the mindset side of this in an earlier video, but here's the behavior itself, in real numbers. Someone who waits 5 extra years to start investing, even if they eventually invest the exact same amount, can end up with tens of thousands of dollars less than someone who started small immediately and simply let time do the work. Time in the market is doing more of the heavy lifting than most people realize, more than the amount you start with, which means waiting for the right amount is often the single most expensive form of patience there is. Here's the part that should really change how you think about this. It's not that the person who waited made a bad decision every single day they waited. It's that each individual day of waiting felt harmless, while the 5 years of waiting added together quietly became the most expensive choice on this entire list. Small delays don't feel costly one at a time. They only reveal their true cost once you zoom out. The rule that fixes this: start with whatever amount doesn't hurt this week, not once you feel ready. Ready is a feeling. Started is a fact. Only one of those actually builds your account. If you've been telling yourself you'll start once you get a raise, once the car is paid off, once things settle down, notice that there's always a next milestone waiting right behind the current one. That's not a coincidence. That's how waiting for enough protects itself from ever actually ending. And it connects directly to the behavior we're covering next, because the same instinct that makes you wait to start also makes you far more likely to jump in impulsively later once fear of missing out finally overrides the hesitation. Behavior 4: chasing hype. Making investing decisions based on what's trending, what a headline is screaming about, or what everyone online is suddenly talking about, instead of a plan you decided on ahead of time. Here's why this behavior is so easy to fall into, even for smart, disciplined people. When something is rising fast and everyone around you seems to be making money from it, your brain treats that social proof as evidence, as if enough other people being excited makes it automatically a good decision. It rarely does. Excitement spreading quickly is a description of a crowd's mood. It's not a description of an investment's actual quality. Here's the pattern almost every hype cycle follows. Price rises, excitement builds, regular people jump in near the top right as the excitement peaks. Price falls back down. The people who bought in based on hype are now down significantly, while the people with a steady, boring plan barely felt it. This behavior doesn't just cost you the money lost on a bad entry point. It costs you trust in investing itself. A lot of people who get burned chasing hype once decide investing isn't for them and step away from the market entirely, missing out on years of steady growth because of one emotional decision. That's really the hidden cost here. It's not just one bad trade. It's the years afterward, sitting on the sidelines because one hype-driven mistake convinced someone that investing itself is the problem instead of the specific behavior that actually caused it. The rule that fixes this: before you invest in anything trending, ask one question. Would I still want this if nobody else was talking about it? If the honest answer is no, that's hype talking, not a plan. That single question does more work than it seems like it should. It separates genuine conviction in something you understand from borrowed excitement you picked up secondhand from a headline or a group chat. One of those is investing. The other is just following a crowd and hoping it knows something you don't. And now, behavior 5. The one I saw more than any other during my years as an advisor, and honestly, the most expensive mistake on this entire list. I want to be direct about why this one ranks above the other 4, because it's not just about the dollar amount. It's about how invisible it is while it's happening. Emotional spending, lifestyle creep, waiting to start, chasing hype, all of those at some level feel like decisions. This one usually doesn't. It feels like discipline. It feels responsible. That's exactly what makes it the most dangerous of the 5. Carrying high interest credit card debt while simultaneously keeping money sitting in a regular savings account. It feels responsible. You're saving, after all. But here's the math nobody walks people through. The average credit card interest rate runs around 20% or higher. The average savings account pays somewhere around 0.5%. That means for every dollar you're keeping in savings while carrying that debt, you're losing close to 20% a year just to sit still, while earning a fraction of 1% on the money you're supposedly protecting. Put another way, if you're carrying a balance and also proud of your savings account balance sitting there earning almost nothing, you're essentially paying yourself 0.5% to hold on to money while a separate debt quietly drains 20% a year in the background. Those two numbers were never designed to be compared to each other, and once you see them side by side like this, the decision becomes obvious. On $5,000 of credit card debt, that gap alone can cost you close to $1,000 a year. Every single year, the balance sits there. That's not a rounding error. That's real money, disappearing specifically because two separate decisions, saving and carrying debt, never got compared against each other honestly. Think about that number for a second. $1,000 a year, quietly lost, purely because two decisions that should have been compared against each other, save this or pay down that, never actually were. Most people don't do this math on purpose. It's not that they don't care. It's that nobody ever laid the two numbers side by side and let them speak for themselves the way we just did. If you take nothing else away from this entire video, take this. Go look at your own numbers tonight. Your actual credit card interest rate and your actual savings account rate side by side. For most people, seeing that gap in their own real numbers is more motivating than any statistic I could give you here. The rule that fixes this: no investing dollar for dollar competes with paying off debt charging 20% interest. Keep a small emergency cushion, then attack high interest debt aggressively before building the rest of your savings or investing further. There is no investment on this entire channel that reliably beats a guaranteed 20% return. And that's exactly what paying off that debt gives you. A small cushion means exactly that. Something modest, set aside for a genuine emergency, not a fully built 6-month fund sitting there, while debt at 20% interest keeps compounding against you. Once that debt is gone, redirect that same payment amount straight into building your full savings and investment plan. The habit of paying yourself that amount every month doesn't have to change. Only where it's going does. So let's bring this together. 5 behaviors, 5 simple rules, a 24-hour pause on impulse spending, investing half of every raise, starting this week instead of waiting to feel ready, asking whether you'd still want an investment without the hype, and attacking high interest debt before anything else. None of these require more income. None of them require a financial advisor or specialized knowledge. They require noticing the behavior and choosing the rule that fixes it, starting with whichever one hit closest to home while you were watching this. What I want you to walk away with isn't guilt over which of these 5 you recognize yourself in. Every single person watching this does at least one of them, myself included, at different points in my life. The goal was never perfection. It's awareness, followed by one small rule, applied consistently, starting now instead of someday. And I meant what I said earlier. These are embedded habits, and change doesn't happen overnight just because you watched one video. That's completely normal. What matters is that the changes we walk through today, small as they might feel at first, are the ones that actually move the needle over time. That's the whole reason we brought this to you. The people who build real wealth over time aren't usually the ones who earned the most. They're the ones who quietly stopped doing the things that were costing them the most. Now you know exactly what those things are. You don't need to fix all 5 behaviors starting tomorrow. Pick the one that hit closest to home while you were watching this and apply its rule this week. The other 4 will still be here. But that one change starting now is worth more than waiting to fix everything at once. If one of these 5 hit a little too close to home, that's exactly why this channel exists. Hit like, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss what's next, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And stick around, because next time we're going somewhere I haven't taken you yet. And it's going to change the way you look at your money completely.